Views expressed by Casters Guild members are only the opinions of that member, and that could change from day to day. Guild members may use mature language, but that in no way means they are mature. Listener discretion is advised.
You may not like what's happening, but just accept it, and let's try to live together. Even if you feel angry, let's be patient and endure. Let's try to live together. I've realized that this is the only way forward. Hayao Miyazaki. And that's the spell we're casting tonight on Casters Guild. Good evening, everyone. This is your Guild Master Rick Perry and Forrest Kodama Spirit.
And I'm Baron Kane, definitely the pig dad from Spirited Away.
And joining us again are two Guild members who've been here before. Feel free to introduce yourselves.
I'm Kat Sedine, resident wild girl trying to take down Irontown.
Hi, and I'm Tiffany Perry, and I'm a Dust Bunny enthusiast.
Can confirm she has the tattoo. All right, and tonight we are talking Hayao Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli. Let's go ahead and start with, what is your favorite Studio Ghibli film?
I'm gonna go ahead and take this one. So that would be My Neighbor Totoro. I absolutely adore that film. That was actually my first Miyazaki film. I didn't even know that it was an anime, and so that was also my first introduction into anime.
Snap, good choice.
There's a fun story behind that one too, but we'll get into that. What's your favorite?
Oh gosh, gun to my head, it would be Princess Mononoke, followed by Spirited Away, depending on the flavor of the day. I saw Spirited Away when it came to theaters in the U.S. It was also my first Miyazaki film. Yeah, blown away by it, and it's part of why I do my professional job too.
I would say everybody assumes mine is Princess Mononoke, which I did like, but I think Spirited Away is my favorite.
I'm right in the Princess Mononoke camp myself. That's definitely my favorite. It might have been my first. But that being said, today, while on my lunch break at work and throughout the rest of the day at work when we had lulls between customers, I was watching Howl's Moving Castle, and I have to say that movie hits different after 2020.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So I feel like that might be my new favorite.
Yeah, I can see. So Howl's Moving Castle is very interesting to me because I have a copy of the book that I've read so often the pages are falling out. And the movie is different enough from the book that I consider them two different properties. I consider them two different stories. But the Miyazaki film, for me, touched on a lot of... It certainly touched on a lot of his common themes of machines versus nature, the indiscriminate violence of warfare, and a lot of other important things that he tends to touch on in his films. What I think for me was missing in that film that was sort of like, okay, so if you haven't read the book, the slime scene doesn't make sense. Like... The scene where Howl just collapses in a pile of goo kind of makes sense in the film, and it's such a strong scene in the book. It's hilarious in the book. But I think it was a way for them to use some of their trademark. So something I learned recently is that it was in Princess Mononoke, and I think it was used in Howl, where they started incorporating the 3D animation rather than just the traditional 2D. And they used that for small, kind of gooey looking effects. Like in Princess Mononoke, it was for the demon arm. And I know that a lot of the slime scene was hand drawn, but I think some of it was also incorporated with some computer generated stuff.
I'm pretty sure the entire castle was mostly computer generated. Yeah,
that's extremely likely. And yeah, so the slime scene doesn't make sense if you haven't read the book. But Howl's Moving Castle, I think it hits totally differently. So it hits totally differently if you've read the book. It hits totally differently after the year that was 2020. But how did it hit you in the way that 2020 made it hit differently? Because I have ideas, but...
You know that meme where you've got the dog with a cup of coffee and it's just sitting in the flaming apartment and it's just like, it's fine. That's Howl's Moving Castle in a picture.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it's everything. Almost nobody, none of the main characters make any decisions in Howl's Moving Castle that affect anything. Almost everything is happening to them. And the castle itself is little bits that Howl has magicked into existence on top of other magicked into existence to where it turns out to be a very toxic place to live, yet it's somewhere I would not mind living for quite a while.
He even said in the movie that he did all that magic to keep people out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, through all of 2020, we sit here and we pile on creature comforts in order to self-care.
Listen,
And
I came here for a good time, and I'm honestly feeling so attacked right now as I'm looking at the paper cranes I folded a couple of weeks ago, the walking stick I'm making for myself. Like, I didn't come here for this.
And
okay?
We don't realize as we do this to ourselves how much we're indulging in situational nihilism to where we are blocking out everything else with our own creature comforts and just taking the rest of the world and just like not looking at it and going, I don't want to be a part of that. That's going on and I can't do anything about it. Everything is burning down, but everything is fine.
It's fine. It's fine. I will stay here in my room full of quilts and clockwork, and the world can go on without me.
In watching Howl's Moving Castle again, I realized that we are Sophie, and that all we want to do is make hats. Yet the world puts us in a situation we don't want to be in, and there's nothing we can do about it. Except make the best of it. And you can't, and just like Sophie, you can't do it by yourself. She has this constructed family that she's made, well, not made for herself, that she's found herself in.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a found family.
She helps them and they help her get through the situation that can't be helped.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you can tag yourself, I'm Sophie. Because thinking about it in that perspective, we can have somebody who's a Sophie who's who's been thrust into this pandemic situation, is trying to make the best of it and just kind of like, come on guys, we got to do stuff. And then you can have a Howl who's like, I live in chaos every day. I don't see any reason to change. Why are you making me do things? Stop. You could also be, so in the book his name is Michael, not Marco. But you could be a Marco who's just like, I'm along for the ride. And like I could see those as like three different responses to this whole.
Or you can be a turnip head who cannot communicate in anything other than basic pogo movements because. Or
you can be a witch of the waste who's just taking advantage of it. Like you could tag yourself. Howl's Moving Castle is now 2020 quarantine. Tag yourself. I'm a Sophie.
And it just keeps piling upon itself because you do have Howl who, well, first of all, like you have to realize this. I think this might be Miyazaki's most personal film because the man was born in 1941 into a world at war and had to evacuate the town he lived in at 3 years old. And then 1 year later, that town was bombed and he had to evacuate that town. Like, Hayao Miyazaki is a pacifist for, like, the most understandable of human reasons. Yeah, like, he was displaced, watched people he knew die and, other terrible things due to war. Then we have Howl, who... We have two kingdoms that are so dependent on Howl that they both draft him into their sides of the war. And he goes, I so don't want to be a part of this and so don't want to deal with this because I'm so against war. He just becomes a psychotic bird person.
Well, I mean, we all become the psychotic bird people in our own lives.
Yes.
Glad I'm not the only psychotic bird person.
You should see my collection of feathers and bird skulls. I think
Yes.
there's a lot of Miyazaki's pacifism looped into all of his films, really. I think the film that starts out the most pro-violent has got to be Mononoke, Princess Mononoke, to change films briefly, because there is an expression within his films of the violence of man's takeover of nature and the violent response. It's not necessarily a merited response. It's not necessarily a reasonable, there's no reasonability between either side. I think that's one of his strongest points in pacifism. But with Princess Mononoke, you have San being violent to protect her home. And I think that offers a more nuanced approach to his pacifism as an understanding through wisdom rather than reflex. So, a reflex would be all war is bad all the time. A reasoned response is like, yes, I understand why you want to be violent to protect the things you love, but there are still people that are going to be hurt by your violence, and you cannot ignore that. And I think that's a lot of what they were getting at with, the boars getting possessed, the forest god still being killed. Like, I think that was one of the best sad endings you could have gotten from a film, because the god of the forest being murdered, arguably really fucking sad. Like, just heartbreaking.
A lot of actions and consequence teachings in that one.
Absolutely.
The lesson of Princess Mononoke I've never seen broken down better. There is a YouTuber who actually sells it as a t-shirt now, that like the lesson of Princess Mononoke is talk more, fight less, say sorry sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's the strongest message in it. You have the I won't say undertones, you'll have the overtones of man versus nature and nature's response. But yeah, talk more, fight less, say sorry sometimes. Yeah, big benefits to that one.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that all of Miyazaki's films are about pacifism, or they're all about environmentalism, and like watching a lot of them back to back. I think if I had to assign one theme to Miyazaki's work overall, which is impossible to do because there are a bunch of different movies about a bunch of different things, but if I had to, it's all about Shintoism.
Oh, for sure.
In general, and not necessarily being an environmentalist or a pacifist, but about respecting the things in nature and otherwise that deserve your respect.
Yeah, I can certainly see that as a more unifying theme if you had to throughout his films. I think we can't ignore the environmentalism and the pacifism. I think those are recurring elements. I think you're right. I don't think we can call them, a permanent theme or an indicator of a Miyazaki film, but I think they're recurring elements that make up part of his signature film design, part of his signature film work. And so, I'm thinking of other things that, like Spirited Away, for example, it's a little harder to do the, man versus nature theme, but you can kind of see it with the old amusement park, excess and waste of the 90s, early 90s, getting overtaken by nature as it's left to go back to the spirits. The railway going through the water. What a beautiful sequence. But yeah, the theme in that film is resilience and respect. I think I would go with for Spirited Away.
Yeah,
it's not my favorite film of the collection, so I wouldn't know.
If you like look at Princess Mononoke, like someone who didn't look at it as a whole, or didn't look at the other films, could easily say it comes down to forest spirit and nature good, man and industrialism and bad. But if you look at Spirited Away, you come across many different spirits that are not good, and not because necessarily they were corrupted by man like they were in Princess Mononoke, but just because they're not good. And and then you look at a movie like Valley of the Wind, and in that movie,
Sir Patrick Stewart as one of the voices. Thank you very much.
That movie kind of flips it around. You have the nature is killing everyone and everything, the spores and the giant insects and everything, and it's like the industrialism and
I'm gonna fight
man
you on that
invent
one, but go on.
that may be keeping everyone safe, or even what's the now I'm gonna blank on the name of the movie.
I'm gonna say that the soundtrack was the thing keeping everybody safe in Nausicaa. If y'all haven't, for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to the soundtrack of Nausicaa recently, go back and listen to it. Go back and watch it. You're in for quite the unexpected treat. But I'm going to argue with you there because one of the main points in Nausicaa was that it was industrialization that caused nature to come back to this killer spore, killer bug, giant problem.
Mhm.
And so it was, if you compare it to Mononoke, nature having a strong response to over-industrialization. A quote-unquote understandable response to over-industrialization.
Then perhaps a movie where it's not as subtle. Like I said, I can't remember the title, but there's the movie with all the planes, and the guy's like, planes are not tools of war. No, planes are not tools of war. Planes are engineers fulfilling dreams. And
It was something wind.
The wind rises.
I think so. Yeah, and the industrialism and the machines are never really viewed as a bad thing in that movie. Like they're just, so what I'm basically trying to say is like Miyazaki in general, he's not like machines and industrialism are, bad, but like we need to do it correctly and they can be good and, still be respectful of the nature and the things around us.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and amongst all that stuff, like in a lot of his movies that have kids as the main characters, he actually has them fighting against themselves too. It's very subtle, but it's in there. Like with Chihiro in Spirited Away, like she is constantly fighting against herself.
She's a little brat in the beginning.
Until finally she's like, all right, yeah, I gotta do this. Let's go do this. She finally like defeats herself to be better. It's the same with My Neighbor Totoro. Like the oldest girl, Satsuke, she's grown up and she's fighting her growing up. Like she doesn't want to deal with that's knocking on the door. Like she doesn't want to. So there's a lot of that too. Also reflects on Miyazaki with him growing up at the age of 3, with seeing all that carnage in his life. Yeah, so he gets it.
I think a lot of that stuff too is there is a lot of what we consider to be human nature, but these movies break it down into what we have learned as human nature versus what is actually human nature. So, like for Spirited Away, like those spirits that you were talking about are bad or greedy or whatever. Really, those are just exaggerated human characteristics.
Sure.
And then you have the main character who is a child who hasn't learned these things, but is learning them, but is learning how to face them through her human nature that she still has, which is she's there to help. She's there out of kindness. She's wanting to help her parents, but she's also not throwing anybody else under the bus. She's generous. She's not accepting gifts that she hasn't earned. It's all, and actually just hearing you guys talk, it seems that way in a lot of the other movies too. It seems like a lot of it is human nature and what we think of as human nature, and how these things that cause all the conflict are what we have come to know as human nature, not what we used to believe human nature. Communication, kindness, cooperation. Whereas now we believe it's about making that money and being productive and progress.
Yeah, arguably, I think a lot of that could be what is lost can be regained, but it must be regained through struggle, which is a very Buddhist concept. I do have to point out that there is a moment of industrialization versus nature in Spirited Away because she cleaned out the river spirit from human pollution.
Yes, she did.
Tiny point in my corner.
It's a valid point. Definitely a valid point.
It is tiny and nitpicky, and I will take it.
Well, heading back to Princess Mononoke, Miyazaki was quoted as saying that he believed the idea that you could have something that's wholly evil and that you could have a hero or a good versus that evil, and that it was the good's job to triumph over evil, like as a concept is just rotten. That we should just throw it out. And the idea behind Princess Mononoke is that there was no bad side on that conflict. There was no evil side on that conflict. You had Lady
the greedy monk. I'm gonna argue the greedy monk was a bit of a dick.
He's the closest we get to a villain.
Yeah.
Yet he takes our hero and gives him food and shelter and takes care of him, and not because he's trying to get something out of him, but simply out of the kindness of his own heart. So even the closest thing we get to a villain in that movie is still
human.
Overall, a quote-unquote good person. Even you have the Lady of Irontown, you know what I mean, who, is obviously rampant deforestation in order to get more iron, in order to prosper her town, yet
to employ the lepers.
Yet she's employing the lepers. She is, protecting the women. She is, protecting everyone that she holds dear. And it's not that she's evil or necessarily wrong, but then you also have the forest side that's becoming more and more corrupted, which obviously also not necessarily the bad guys, yet when you first turn on the movie, if you haven't seen it before, Naga comes running in and you're like, oh, well, that's obviously a bad thing that has to be taken out. And our main character, our protagonist, the last prince of his people, in an attempt to become a man and protect his people, kills this demon and becomes corrupted in the process. And in an attempt to become a man, recognizes himself as not even human and becomes nothing. I mean, talk about that as a coming-of-age story.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, Timmy, when you get a little older, you're going to have tentacles sprout from your arm, and they're going to consume you.
And you won't even get to be human anymore.
You won't get a choice in the matter. Oh, God.
Happy birthday.
And then they tell him, they're like, oh, there might be a cure to the West. And like, he doesn't even get a choice in the matter as far as going to find the cure because, by the way, you're banished anyway.
Yeah, that was the most gentle banishment I could imagine. But like, by the way, we don't want this corruption ourselves. So like, can you just go away?
And because injury's no good without insult, they're like, oh, by the way, you're dead to us now. Regardless of what happens. Cure yourself of corruption, like heal the world, whatever, doesn't matter. You're dead to us now.
Love you, bye. Yeah, something. So the complexity of all of his films, and the complexity of the stories that they tell, the characters involved, and the interactions that they have, and the not necessarily happy endings. I think that's part of what makes them so good, even the ones that were considered flops, is that it treats the audience as mature. It treats them as though they can hold conflicting concepts in their mind, as though they can understand people that they don't always agree with. And, I'd love to get more into the actual animation, but before I do, I want to talk about, how I do have to bring up that part of the disdain that he has for modern anime is the childish simplicity with which these stories, the other anime stories, are created. They have good versus evil. There's nobody who's actually, there's no, the only redemption arc is one that makes good TV, and like how they talk is so strange. And I think a lot of the ire that he has, like, he is one of my favorite kinds of people. I love grumpy old guys. I think they're great. I think that, like, grumpy old, like, not nasty old men. Like, he's just grumpy. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's not out to hurt anybody. He's just grouchy. And I think some of the grumpy attitude is that he seems to come at it. He comes at filmmaking, like you said, with a respect, with not quite a genuflection, but like a respect for the spiritual world, a respect for the natural world, and a respect for human nature. That he reflects in all of his films, even if it's a little clunky or if it's a little awkward, there's an earnestness, there's an earnest kindness there. It's not nice. Like, it's a kindness that's in there that I think is lacking in other modern animation. And I think that's part of what makes his films so lasting, is that they're the earnestness, the complexity, and the maturity of how he treats the audience is incredibly important. That gives them their longevity, that gives them their popularity.
And his attention to the details.
Oh, yeah.
For example, I watched one of those documentaries today, and he was talking to one of his animators, and he was going through a sketch that they had already done, and he was looking at it, and he was like, no, what is this? People don't run like this. No, they would put a hand down here. This woman is clutching a bag. Why is it drooping? She would hold it, underneath her arm. Like, think about things. You have to think what you're doing. And he said, if you can't think about this, if you can't think about your life, get out. Like, this is what I am. Like,
he's a grumpy old man.
Yes, but he's so genuine with it. Like, that is what he wants to portray. He's so involved and engrossed with it. He's also a bit of a perfectionist. From me watching that and listening to the dialogue, I'm like, wow, he wasn't done his way. Like,
yeah.
But he's so endearing with it as well. He wants you to succeed. He wants it to be perfect.
He wants it to be perfect because he knows you can do it. And not you can do it, like, you can do this. I know you can do this.
So do it.
So do it.
Yes, that is Miyazaki, and that is not what I envisioned the man who made Totoro. That is not how I pictured this man, but it makes sense. It makes total sense, and I'm glad he's like that, because we wouldn't have Totoro if he wasn't like that.
No, we wouldn't.
And I can absolutely see him in his films. Just the sheer way a leaf moves with the wind. That is the detail that he embodies in his work.
I really think that you're glossing over the important things when it comes to deep. What are you laughing at, Rick? Because you know what I'm about to say?
I think so.
It's the food.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. I have never been as hungry. I've never been as hungry as when I'm watching a Miyazaki film.
Ponyo made me angry.
Damn.
Angry. I have made that ramen since then, and I've made the Ponyo drink since then. By the way, the Ponyo drink is delicious.
I believe it. It's Miyazaki.
On my way home from today, I call Tiffany and I'm like, what are we having for dinner? And she's like, I just got done watching a Miyazaki documentary, so I want ramen.
He was eating ramen.
I've never been able to find a bowl of ramen that's pretty.
Gosh, it's so, my gosh.
It's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, I made salmon ramen the other day. It had to be, I was using keto ramen noodles, which are actually very good. But yeah, it just doesn't, like, I tried photographing. I'm a pretty hot hand at photography. Like, I can make a burger look pretty good like a burger. I can make myself look like a snack. But I can't get the ramen to look good.
I have a whole Instagram dedicated to the ramen I've made and the ramen I've ate. Nothing. Not even the stuff I didn't make. Nothing looks as good.
You just can't get that golden edge lighting on the broth.
Everything's moist.
Mm-hmm.
Too juicy.
Now I want to.
To your defense, he makes an ear of corn look delicious.
With juicy, just bedazzled across it now.
You have to put the TH instead of the C, just juicy. And juicy. We actually,
like water,
Ryan,
water
my husband and I, we picked up ramen bowls the other day because they were at the H Mart I was at, because I was picking up stuff for the salmon ramen, and he was like, finally, a soup bowl big enough for all my soup. And I was like, no, it's only for ramen. It's only ramen.
As much as I like ramen, I didn't get my first ramen bowl until I catered a party with ramen. And the person that had me do it gave me a ramen bowl. I was like, oh, it's my first ramen bowl.
Hell yeah.
Of all places, though, that's the best place to get a ramen bowl.
Yeah.
A ramen party.
Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so I think to bring it back to film critique or film examination, the care put into the food makes me want to eat lunch with the man. Like,
Yeah.
oh, but
Even his cups of coffee are like, I want to drink that. It's just coffee, but I want to drink that with you.
the water,
Like-
like the water coming out of the hand pump. I'm like, I just want some of that, please. Like,
It's
it's gonna be
delicious.
delicious. It's gonna be delicious.
Perfect temperature. It just looks the perfect temperature.
Mhm.
So
You know, you
something that's bothering me, and I'm only going to bring it up now because it's been bothering me since you said even the Miyazaki films that were flops, and I don't know how I'm going to get back to it.
Go
So understand, flop is a relative thing
Mhm.
because Howl's Moving Castle opened number 12 behind Batman Begins as number 1 the week they both came out. Batman Begins opened on over 4,000 screens. Howl's Moving Castle opened on 202 screens.
Oh yeah.
So
No,
math is not real.
yeah, no.
So-
flop. Movie rating math. It's
Not
more
to
stuff.
mention, Christian Bale totally workshopped his Batman voice all throughout Howl's Moving Castle before
Yeah, he did.
he actually did it in Batman Begins in order to beat Howl's Moving Castle opening week. Just saying.
Oh goodness. Oh, the
Here,
red
it's
hot
there.
ramen takes tonight. My goodness.
I mean, that was totally the Batman voice, like, you don't even know how to break your own spell. Like,
Oh goodness. No.
that was
Speaking from a purely horny teenager perspective, from a horny female teenager perspective, Batman voice, Howl voice, two different ends of the spectrum. I'm going to tell you right now.
Very true.
Because you have the Batman voice. Where's the Witch of the Waste? Where is she? And then you have the very smooth. I'm
that's
deeply
Bruce.
insecure. I'm deeply insecure, but very confidently and breathily speaking to you right next to your ear. Aren't I just adorable?
That's Bruce. It's Bruce Wayne. I mean, like he
No, it's
workshopped
Hal.
all
It's Hal.
ends of those voices. Like he was like, of course it's not exact because he was still working it out. He's like, all right, this is the suave, sophisticated billionaire playboy, and this is the Dark Knight. Like,
This is the Dark Knight. Maybe he tried out that voice when he was in his crow form, and they were like, "Let's just not have
Exactly.
him have any lines. No lines. Just
exactly, like he's like this exact. The crow form has that guttural, gravelly. It is there. Go back, watch the movie. It's Batman. 100%. It's Batman.
Oh,
I had seen Howl's Moving Castle long ago, and I loved it then. And I was watching it earlier today, and I was like, I know that voice. And so I IMDb'd. I was like, Batman. It's Batman.
It's Batman. I'm telling you, it's
remember
Batman.
thinking that, like, I knew that voice.
But
And
let's
it
be
worked
real.
for Howl, though. It worked.
Best
Yeah.
voice in that movie, Billy Crystal.
Oh, absolutely.
For,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Speaking of things that hit different after 2020, Howl, quote unquote, saves Calcifer or curses him, depending on how you want to look at it, and then powers his entire castle. Like everything relies on Calcifer. So to go ahead and literally burn yourself out every day for me because I am literally giving you the home that you live in. Like, okay, essential worker, burn yourself out for me on a daily basis.
Maybe.
And thank me for it. I'm so glad I saved you.
He's also
That's
good at working from home.
He's definitely working.
Yes, he is working from home.
Yes, yes.
And how does Hal repay him? A pizza party.
Look,
Bacon.
It's-
but yeah.
it's 2021. Subtlety is buried 6 feet under in my back garden. Okay, this is subtle. This is not.
No, that's entirely fair. Oh golly, I hadn't even considered that. Phew. Man. I mean, and the worst part is that Calcifer agrees to live for another 1,000 years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm sorry, Howl lives another. No, I'm thinking of the book. I'm mixing it all up now. God, you gotta read the book. It's so good. movie's great. Like movie's great, book's great. I'm not gonna be like, hey, the movie's better than the book.
I personally believe any film adaptation needs to stand on its own without the book. Otherwise, it's not a good adaptation. Like
there's some. Oh God, what is it? Media translation is the big overarching word here, where you have things that work in a book and things that work in a film, and that Venn diagram doesn't have a lot of overlap. And so media translation is a big deal, and so I remember, God, maybe it's just a millennial thing, but like I remember there being a lot of ire, like, well, the book was way better, and I'm like, you can't translate a character's thoughts in the book onto the screen.
That without straight up beat you over your head exposition about it, and like then that's a bad movie.
Yeah, and then you end up with something that just doesn't land right. You know, it's funny. I'm thinking more and more about Spirited Away and not being subtle, because that was another film I saw in theaters. So there is argument online about it being.
You don't say.
About it being about the exploitation.
You can end that statement right there. There's argument online.
There's an argument online about it being the exploitation of young girls in spas as prostitutes. And I think Miyazaki was quoted as like, yeah, that was definitely one of the things I'm upset about. So yeah. Treating the spa like a brothel, and Yubaba as the madam. And it's one of those things where like it hits different. Like I was, at first I watched it and I hadn't learned any Japanese at all. This was, fresh-faced college student, I think. I'm not going to date myself. But watching it, I was like, this is an excellent film. This is a young girl's maturity, recognizing that just because she's lost something doesn't mean she's lost everything. She can gain something. If she just stops being a jerk, she can get more friends. Also, her parents were weirdly obnoxious. She can be different, and like I thought that was really cool. But when I came to it from a perspective of like, oh, that that character is for a spa, but I think it was also used for brothels in the Edo period. And recognizing more and more of the symbolism underneath, it's not hard to be like, oh yeah, this is definitely about exploitation, exploitation of young women. This is definitely like, she literally had her name taken away from her. She had everything taken away from her just so she could work for Yubaba and serve this creepy repeat customer. He just wants to give her money.
Yeah. In something as intimate as a bath. So, yeah.
Arguably, baths are less intimate. So health spa baths would be less intimate than how Americans recognize them.
Right.
It'd be more like, it's still creepy. Like, I'm not gonna deny that a bathtub and it's creepy. Because there are a lot of communal baths, Well, you remember that scene where you seen all the spirits, you got the 3 little ducklings with the towels on their heads. You have group baths. Listen, the imagery sticks with you. You don't get to pick which imagery sticks with you.
It's just there.
It just pops up unbidden every once in a while. I'm like, soaking in the tub. Like, what are those ducklings with the towels on their head? But like, it's less explicit than it would be, say, in the U.S., where we're like, oh, hot tub party, huh? Let's get into the hot tub. Purely sexual intentions here. Whereas in Japan, it's more about relaxing and cleansing, but not cleaning. So, like, with the herbal soak tokens that they were talking about, there is an H in it. You cannot make me say herbal unless I'm under duress. With the herbal soak tokens, it was more about... I have many sidebars. You're going to have to keep going. Listen, I'm just one of those Word documents that has tons of comments on the side. You just got to keep up. So, with the herbal soak tokens, those are specifically, they aren't for cleaning your skin. They're more about cleaning your spirit, your sense of self. Water in particular is very precious in Shintoism. When you visit a Shinto shrine, there's a particular way you have to wash your left hand. Then you use that to wash your right hand. Then use that to wash out your mouth. You don't wash your face. You wash out your mouth. and then you finish, drying up, you put stuff down. There's tons of health stuff related to, or it's like, oh, if you want to, you have a cold, go soak in the tub. You have to shower first, get all the crap off of you. So, you're not bringing anything with you, but, you have to soak in the tub. Oh, your back hurts, go soak in the tub. Oh, you got cancer, go soak in the tub. Like, it's just, it is a spiritual experience that is used so often it has been brought into the mundane. And so it'd be like, I'm trying to think of an American equivalent. It's almost like taking a walk in the woods. Like, the walk itself is nice. Like, okay, so yeah, you got the hot water, helps relax your muscles. That's nice. Walking in the woods, walking's good for you. However, you have the hot tub, the relaxing, the herbal soaks. And when you're in the forest, you have the natural world around you. You have the sounds. You have
Sun,
breeze,
nature.
the sun, the birds, the frog you might step on. I am not endorsing stepping on frogs. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, hey, this is here to fix you. Not saying that forest walks can't be sexy, but they are not explicitly sexy. So that's where this long rambling post has ended up. Just crash landing in this ofuro. So a bathtub in Japanese is ofuro. It's this little soaking.
Right, now that's been 2 hours. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Caster's Guild.
I have no regrets. No regrets whatsoever. But yeah, so it's not as sexualized, but it is can be sexy. Not
so.
I got it.
Yeah.
Completely taking a left turn here. Tiffany spent a lot of time with both Ni no Kuni games. Ni no Kuni 1 and 2.
I spent all the time with those games.
I feel like we would be remiss if we did not bring up Studio Ghibli Pokemon.
You're not wrong.
It's basically what the first game was. So
and then Studio Ghibli Pikmin right after that.
Yes.
Is that what 2 was? Because we were waiting. So we have it, and we haven't finished 1 because we got somebody who happens to like grinding. That is not me. Got bogged down in Ni no Kuni 1. So we haven't started Ni no Kuni 2. But if I tell him it's like Ni no Kuni Pikmin, it might have his attention.
It's a little bit Pikmin, a little bit city builder, a little bit.
It's a lot of city builder. There's a whole thing of it. It's mostly city builder. You are going in Ni no Kuni 2. You're basically going around helping all of the inhabitants of that world to hopefully recruit them into your kingdom, and then they go and like help you build your kingdom. Like you give them a job.
Send somebody to go woolulu? Oh wait, no, that's the wrong game.
You could try. You definitely try. So it's very different on both of those games, but it still has the spirit of Ghibli, and it's like a continuation. Kinda, it's in the same world, but it's years later. Like the characters in the second game know who the characters are in the first game, but they're revered as the past. Like that's their history.
Ancient history, former heroes.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. But it's still amazing. The worlds are still there. You go to some of the same cities. They're just, a little different because it's years later. But it's still the same cities.
Do they still have really like the lovely curry blends that you have to make? Thinking of Miyazaki and food.
There is a whole city where it is a lot of food, and it's because it's like a carnival, and so they've got all these little carnival booths, and there's food, and they're called what are the little things called? I've totally forgot. They're not tiddlywinks. What the heck are they? I forget what they're called.
I think they're like piddlywinks or something. They're like
are you talking about the Wiggle-Dees?
Higgledy-dees. That's those
Higgledy-dees.
Yeah.
Yes.
Higgly things. You can create them, but they're already also created. You control them, and that's the Pikmins. Is the Higgledy-dees.
Higgledy-dees. Oh God.
Higgledy-dees or whatever the heck they're called.
First, you gain different spirits that are like Pokemon, and you like battle them like you would a Pokemon. Like in Ni no Kuni 2, there's like 4 different colors of Higgledy-dees, and you collect them in like the 10s and 100s, and like send them as a group at different
battle.
Things.
Oh, they battle. I was like, are they gonna go pick up a bottle cap for you? Get an orange or something? Like
yes.
Well, it's not just battle. solve little puzzles too, just like you would in Pikmin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they also are in your town. Like they are your little Pikmins. But I think I loved Ni no Kuni 2. I did, but I think Ni no Kuni 1 was my favorite. That was definitely my favorite. I thoroughly enjoyed the Pokemon aspect of it.
Oh, heck
And
yeah.
I have platinumed both of these games. Like I spent all the time in those games doing everything. I platinumed them both.
If there was something
And I would do it again.
Did it? Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I was watching Ryan play it because I wanted to see him play through it, see what it's about, and I just got caught up in the setting. I got caught up in the beautiful artwork of the landscapes. I got caught up in calling the giant cat king your Meowjesty. And like
Yes.
he looked exactly like my old cat that was living with my parents at the time, and I was like, "Your Meowjesty!" Like the thematic elements were so strong and so clearly thought out. So so carefully thought out. The music, the setting, the color scheme.
Same composer that did all of Ghibli's previous films.
Danny Elfman.
They got for Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, Danny Elfman.
Yes.
Oh God!
Danny Elfman does all the like John Williams. Nope. Chuck Testa. I mean Danny Elfman.
Oh, like,
Sorry.
but
Bring
like,
back
in
a
all
very old
seriousness, you have like Hans Zimmer, John Williams, Danny Elfman, and then for some reason I feel terrible because I can't remember his name, but the composer that did all of Ghibli's films, he has almost as many credits under his name as those guys. Like I think he's like might be 20 short, and when you're talking about like 170, like being 20 short is not that far off. Like it's.
I think the thing that impresses me most, I know it's way off subject, but I mean, he's the Oingo Boingo guy. Come on.
I know, God, I actually like Oingo Boingo's music. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I really like it.
And
I do too. No, I do too. I like Oingo Boingo.
Look at Hans Zimmer and John Williams and Danny Elfman. A lot of their credits are like gimmies.
Oh yeah. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, we can't really count any of Tim Burton's stuff for Danny Elfman. You just can't.
Yeah.
Well, but that's all of his stuff.
Right.
All of it.
You can't count any of Helena Bonham Carter's credit for Tim Burton either. You can't count them. Sorry.
Nope, not at all. So I have the name for you. It's Joe Hisaishi.
Yes.
That's his professional name. He does have a personal name, Fujisawa Mamoru. But his professional name that you'll see him credited as is Joe Hisaishi, or Hisaishi Joe, depending on which order you go. Family name Hisaishi. 100 film scores and solos dating back to good golly.
Yeah.
Good golly, Miss Molly.
Like, dude's got a lot of credits.
Absolutely.
And like, what's cool? It doesn't all like some people. Some people make fun of Danny Elfman, and they're like, all of his songs are.
Don't forget the little xylophone.
I know that one. I know that one.
But like this dude's music all sounds different and beautiful, and like fits every individual mood and scene, and just you can't talk about Studio Ghibli without talking about those scores.
Oh yeah, like the sweeping strings in Howl's. Sweeping strings in any of the films, but Howl's Moving Castle, to me, sounds like a music box, which I think encapsulates a whole lot of the look and feel of the film. Like it's an encapsulated story. The fact that the castle's a box. Like it's just a little box that opens up, and when it opens up, there's something beautiful inside. Which again, metaphor for the film, but like you could easily take. I don't think you could with like Princess Mononoke or any of the other films, but Howl's Moving Castle in particular, easily turn that into a music box. And now I want one. I love music boxes. I'm an old lady.
The castle that doesn't survive the film because it can no longer sustain itself in the environment that it's in.
Right, because you have to wind it back up again.
Because once again, subtlety is buried in the garden 6 feet deep. Because this place that we built for ourselves to shelter ourselves from the world can no longer sustain itself.
Is this why you wanted to talk about Miyazaki? You wanted to make everybody else sad?
I haven't even brought up Grave of the Fireflies yet.
Oh my
Listen,
God.
not technically a Miyazaki film.
Are we ending the podcast?
No.
Well, I'm gonna go cry. 'Cause I'm gonna go cry.
No. The Moving Castle is not the podcast.
I'll shut this whole damn tavern down.
I'll destroy everything. Just you
Totally
wait.
with him.
So, technically, and because I'm going to get technical here, technically, Grave of the Fireflies was Studio Ghibli, and it was released at the same time as My Neighbor Totoro, but it was not a Miyazaki film.
Well,
also,
I mean, like,
they should never put that anywhere near the children's section. I correct myself. The first Studio Ghibli film I saw was Grave of the Fireflies, and I was like 8 at the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, my 11-year-old seen it and I haven't.
Oh my goodness!
Don't do it to yourself.
That's because-
Do it, but don't do it.
I'm not watching it. I'm not.
As I've told you many times before, you should not.
It is. I think what the great thing about Grave of the Fireflies did, and has been doing to anime fans since, as you have noticed, is it brings this very down to earth, heartbreaking storytelling, which I think is missed in a number of other anime. I watch that junk all the time. We're still in the middle of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Like, I'm not here to just knock anime. Like, oh my god, it's so great. It's so gay. I love it. But
I just wish they stop getting caught up in copyright crap.
Oh yeah, well that's
which is why it takes long for it to come to the US.
It's Funimation Crunchyroll I think has some of it. But what Grave of the Fireflies has done is while it's an incredibly specific story, like it's so specific, it introduces themes and feelings that we all have to deal with eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And it is not very little positive comes out of that film, other than the realization that war is freaking terrible and children tend to suffer the most. But I wouldn't call that a positive feeling. I think that's an important takeaway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that movie is also beautiful.
Oh,
like
it's heartbreaking in all the best ways.
And that film does a lot of what anime does not, which is those hard lesson feelings. Like, you see a lot of movies do that. A lot of movies throw the feelings at you and break your heart. But that movie, when you watch an anime, you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be fun and whimsical and great, especially from Ghibli. Not this
Just
movie.
put it squarely in the childhood trauma section of the movie store, right next to Watership Down.
Right next to Watership Down. I still have like it's almost like trauma flashbacks where I see some of those flashbacks in Watership Down where I'm like, oh, General Woundward, oh god. Again, watched it when I was a kid. I also watched Guyver Bio Booster Armor, which is a sci-fi horror movie, which my parents didn't know, and I didn't either, and it explains so much.
I definitely think it is worth at least one watch, just for. But I've watched it once. I will never watch it again because I won't ever forget it. Like, even
you can't.
I don't have to watch it again because it will stick with me forever.
Mm-hmm.
It is that impactful. It did its job, and it did it well, and it's beautiful. It is a beautiful movie.
Yeah, and I think it was released at the same time as My Neighbor Totoro, which was interesting because from a modern perspective, it's like, oh, you can see the range of which, this studio can produce. And a lot of people were sort of like, had seen Grave of the Fireflies, and then when they were looking at My Neighbor Totoro, they're like, what? This is drivel. This is nothing. And like they
come on.
It's like if you eat. Okay, I'm hungry, so you're gonna have to bear with me. So it's like if you eat something with a subtle flavor versus a strong flavor. Which one should you eat first? You should probably eat the one with the subtle flavor first, because you're gonna have the strong flavor lingering in your mouth. It turns out the subtle flavor has more complexity, or the same amount of complexity, just in a different way. And
not to discount what you're saying at all.
It's fine.
But at the same time, how subtle does Dead Mom need to really And like, it's not like every dead mom in like every Disney movie. Like they really like beat you over the head with it. Like it's the fact that this little girl is grieving her mother before she's gone and needs a giant forest spirit to help her cope. Like there's,
but from how the story is told,
yes,
You can't tell.
Like I said, not to discount what you're saying, but like
Yeah.
you know, if you sit down and look at it for more than half a second, and anything other than just surface level, like it's
it's tragic. Like
Mhm.
there's an element of tragedy to most, if not all, of Miyazaki's film direction, and you know, part of it is because there's tragedy in life, and he takes his examples from life, but there's a sadness to his grumpiness. You know, he wants perfection. He wants beautiful things to mean things to people, but there's always been sort of a sadness undertone. You know, he
Yeah,
maybe
it goes right back to that. Everything is burning down, but everything is fine.
Yeah. And I think it adds an elegance. There's an effortless elegance to his films. I don't know why you brought me on here. I could have just recorded you 2 hours by myself. There's an elegance to his films in their simplicity. You know, the simplicity I've been mentioning throughout. You start with the animation style. It's both highly stylized and not. It's not quite. Oh God, what was that? It's not quite rotoscope. Like it's not that dead on for human, but it is so much more. Oh, I saw that face. You know what I'm talking about with rotoscope.
I hate rotoscope. So bad.
What? You don't want to watch Fire and Ice over again? Bringing out the street cred here. But it has a realness. There's a weight to everything that exists in that world, even the weightless things like the beautiful broth in the ramen bowls.
Until you get to the Yamadas, and then like that gets thrown out the window.
Right. Well, there's a softness to the animation that makes it real. It's a real soft. Like you don't have these like dagger elbows and bright shining eyes that you see in other animation. You have, you know, kids with bellies. You have awkward knees. You have dads with dumb dad haircuts or something. You know, there's again the softness in the there's realness, and like the softness in the animation softens the edges of some of the sadness and intensity in the storytelling, but it doesn't take it away. And I think that's, you know, combined with the stories that are being told, it lends that realness, that authenticity, that earnestness that always comes through in his work.
The balance of the fantasy and the reality that you have to deal with. You know,
he makes it deceptively simple.
Yeah.
You don't
but with
know
that
you're
attention
taught
to
lessons.
detail you're talking about. Yeah.
I still want a bowl of ramen though. Like,
yeah, mine was tasty. It was real good.
I'm so hungry.
Sitting here with a full belly. So, what was your?
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, what was your introduction to Miyazaki? Like, who, where, what, when, and why?
I had two moments, and I don't remember which came first. Okay, so you'll have to bear with me. I remember one time a family friend went to Blockbuster, and they were watching me and my brother, and they just went to Blockbuster and picked up a bunch of movies, and they saw My Neighbor Totoro. They had no idea what it was they were renting, but they were like, this looks good for kids, and rented it from Blockbuster, and we saw My Neighbor Totoro that way. And then I remember I had, and I don't remember how I got it, how I acquired it, who gave it to me, whatever, but I had a VHS copy of Princess Mononoke, and it was a screening copy. Like, it was like a for your consideration copy, like not for resale, not for like the message would come up, this is not for public viewing, like this is don't know where it came from. I think I got it at a yard sale somewhere if I had to nail it down. But I
Breaking the law.
I wore that thing out how many times I watched that VHS copy of Princess Mononoke because it's just such a good movie.
I just
And
run a
don't
magnet
remember-
over it. It'll restore the tape. It'll be fine.
Totally.
But I don't know which one of those I watched first, but they're both very strong childhood memories for me.
I think mine was Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I may have even seen it on TV.
Good place for it.
Well, snap.
It wasn't like a DVD, it wasn't a VHS. It's like they were running it on a TV channel. God, I wish I could remember which one it was now.
Was it just a random encounter?
Yeah.
And then you were just flipping through channels and boom, Howl's Moving Castle. This looks good. Like,
Mhm. Yeah, it was odd.
Huh. No kidding.
that works.
Man.
Well, like I said, mine was definitely My Neighbor Totoro. And I remember when I was younger, I would always go shopping with my aunt. And we would always end up at either Walmart, and she would let me pick a movie out for my little brother and myself. And I picked out My Neighbor Totoro for my little brother. That was actually meant for him. So we go home, we watch it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And we would watch it periodically. We watched a lot of Disney and everything. And then I didn't really get into anime until I was in my middle school years. Like, I didn't really know what anime was. I had no friends that were really into anime until middle school, like 7th, 8th grade. And they were telling me about Hayao Miyazaki, and they were like, oh yeah, this film and this film. Like, I've seen that film. I have that film. Didn't even know that was an anime. So all those years I had loved it and didn't even know what it was. And I still have that VHS.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Well, like I
still
said, you
have
just
it.
run a magnet over it, and it'll just restore the
No.
tape. It'll be fine.
No, you stay away. My first tattoo is a dust bunny on my ankle when I was 18. That was the very first tattoo I got. Like, I'm
It's
a
adorable.
devoted fan.
I have dust bunny earrings, like little earrings that have jars of dust bunnies and little candy stars. It's
I
really,
do too. I'm wearing a dust bunny right now in this ear. Right there. Oh yeah.
let's see. My first introduction and my first watching were two separate incidents. And I call them incidents just because I was in middle school at one and high school at the other, and so middle school I had a friend who was like, oh yeah, I love My Neighbor Totoro, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? She's like, didn't you watch it? I was like, no. She's like, everybody I knew watched this film, and I was like, I don't think I want to watch it now because you're being kind of rude. And I thought nothing of it, but she would just be like, oh yeah, and My Neighbor Totoro. I'm like, okay, I don't, that's fine. But years later, we were still friends somehow. In high school, Princess Mononoke was coming to the States, and like Academy Awards and all that junk. We scored tickets for an early screening down in Virginia, like 2 or 3 hours away. But like, one of us had our license, and we were like, we're gonna see anime in a theater, and like, oh my god, this is so cool! Like,
Cool kid
Gillian
stuff.
Anderson, she's so cool. And so we saw the film in the theater, and I remember it was a bright sunny day. It was a lovely town. It was like Old Town Alexandria or some, hoopty-juke. But yeah, I remember seeing that on screen, and I was like, I had no idea anime could be this good. Oh my gosh, I need to see this 1,000 more times. And I saw it like twice.
Same
Yeah, that
equivalent.
was that was both my introduction to it and then my actual encounter with it. And I was just like, I'm gonna murder all the industrialists. I did not understand the subtlety in the film because I was like 14 or 15 at the time. I was like, kill all the industrialists. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, I am an environmental program manager. I'm here to speak for the trees, Beach.
Beach? Beach tree. Anyway,
I got tree puns, girl. I got tree puns.
I bet you do. Mhm.
I guess I'll leave before all that happens.
Hmm?
I said, I guess I'll leave before all that happens.
I mean, we could get to the root of the problem,
Oh.
or we could branch
You're
out.
all bark and no bite. It doesn't matter.
Wait,
I can snap you like a twig.
And Baron seeing himself out.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
yeah, because I hate puns.
Uh-huh.
For more puns, see Baron's TikTok.
Oh, goodness gracious me. Goodness gracious me. You know, it's funny thinking about introductions to the films. I have not seen all of them, although I do plan on it. I saw Nausicaa, The Valley of the Wind, about 5 or 6 years ago. My best friend had was like, "Oh my gosh, you haven't seen this film?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "It's got Patrick Stewart in it." I'm like, "Well, sign me right the fuck up." And again, the soundtrack is unique.
Yeah.
The most unique of the films, I have to say. It is it has aged. I'm not going to say if it aged well or aged poorly, but it has aged.
Mm-hmm.
But the
You could say that about a lot of that movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Still good though.
Yeah.
Pikachu totally ripped off that little cat creature's design. Just that little cat weasel creature was original Pikachu. Follow me for more fresh hot takes.
Have you seen the most recent Studio Ghibli film?
The Wind Rises.
Earwig and the Witch?
Oh, I heard that was terrible.
I'm going to kind of agree.
Oh,
okay. I wouldn't. It has its merits. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I've watched a lot of Ghibli films. I went into that movie expecting Ghibli, but it was not made by Hayao Miyazaki. I'm pretty sure it was created by his son.
Yeah, I was to say, I think that's a Goro creation.
It is
Ghibli, but it's CGI. Yeah,
it's entirely CGI.
It's CGI, and it has the characteristics, but it's not Ghibli. It is, but it isn't. Like, it's not.
It has the sheen, but no substance.
Yeah, it's not what I'm used to. But I went into that movie expecting one thing and seeing something, and I'm like, okay, well, where's this going? What is this? I want this part, and that's where the movie ended. So
what?
Yeah, I was expecting that's how it kind of started. I'm like, all right, where's this going? Because I want this, and it just didn't happen. It cut me off right where I wanted the story to begin. So it was
rude.
It was okay. It was okay. That was definitely more of a child's movie. I don't like it.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's all sheen, no substance. It just wasn't the substance that Tiffany was looking for. I feel like there was plenty of substance in that film and definitely had its merits. There's plenty of lessons to learn in the film that it will gladly teach you. I think a lot of the lessons that film teaches, and understand when I say this, Tiffany, it is not a dig or me saying anything about you. It's not for you.
I agree.
It's for children who grow up in broken homes, who grow up without proper parental figures, and it's a very, everything is not always what it seems, and just because something seems bad doesn't mean it's bad for you type of film.
Okay, I can see the attempt there for
Yeah, but I feel like they could have done so much better than what they did. They should have just let Hayao do it.
There will be many children. There will be many children who see that movie at a certain period of time in their life. It will be exactly the movie they needed to see at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
And
okay, I can see that.
I hope so.
Yeah,
there's a niche for it. We're just not in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not. The movie's not for me.
Certain parts of that hit me in a certain way, and but I can see where Tiffany's coming from too.
Yeah, it sounds very much, and again, definitely not trying to dig on anybody here, but it sounds like when I was talking to my older friend who grew up reading comic books and stuff, and then they did the Ultimate Spider-Man, and they reintroduced Peter Parker as this young kid, and he's just like, I don't like it. I just can't relate to it. And it's like, okay, just because you can't doesn't mean that this new generation of comic book readers can.
Listen,
this young high schooler now that is closer to their age.
My one true Spider-Man is still Miles Morales. Like, he has my heart. Sweet boy.
I mean, mine's always going to be, the original Peter Parker. I mean, that's
fair.
Also Scarlet Spider, because
I
fucking
Ben Reilly.
design. Christ.
It's the easiest Halloween costume in the
Right?
Spider-Man line. Like,
So good.
you got a hoodie, you got bracelets,
So
you
good.
a Spider-Man.
I don't really believe in guilty pleasures, but boy, let me tell you, Ben Reilly is mine.
Actually, thinking of new films, I saw Mary and the Witch's Flower.
Oh,
That was an interesting installment. I'd actually be willing to watch it again. Because there was definitely more to it than I originally thought. I don't think it has the same. Again, it doesn't have the same subtlety as a Miyazaki directed film, but I think that
It has the
film,
spirit.
it has a lot of the earnestness. Like, they kind of went for a bit of a twist, and I'm like, we don't need a twist, guys. This can all be straightforward. But like, there was an earnestness to it that I think can help other films similar to it shine better. And it felt more.
Do you have HBO Max?
I do not.
HBO Max breaks a lot of its things apart into hubs, quote unquote, and they have an entire Ghibli hub.
Excellent.
They do.
So
Watch it all day.
pretty much every Ghibli project
Oh,
is
wow.
available on HBO Max.
Wow.
Hashtag
I'm still not
sponsored.
watching Grave of the Fireflies again. You can't make me.
No.
I'll call them herbal soak tokens before I watch it again. Just to make a
Fair.
callback out there.
They actually teased me on HBO Max. The documentary that I was watching, it was, what was it called? The Never Ending Man. Hayao Miyazaki is the one that I watched. There's another.
Oh, is that a crack about how he never actually retires?
Yes, they mentioned that a few times. He also mentions that a few times.
Yeah.
But that documentary basically follows him. I think it was in 2016. It follows him in his introduction into the CGI world. He also fought it very hard, and it follows him creating his little short films. He stopped the full length and went to short films. It was called Boro the Caterpillar. And after I watched this, and he kind of showed him trying to capture. The reason he went to CGI was because he was trying to capture the movement of a caterpillar, and he admitted he couldn't do it with a pencil. He just can't capture that little fluid moment of a caterpillar. So that's why he reached out to CGI. And he realized this. He knew that there were so many things he wanted to do, but he couldn't do it by himself. So, and it's a really good little documentary of him discovering himself and fighting himself. And it basically should just be animated by him. Like, that in itself was the masterpiece.
They do say write what you know, so.
Yeah. And my favorite quotes is actually, it's now one of my favorite quotes that he said in that movie, and we'll share that at the end, or somewhere in there, once it pops up. But it felt very, and then I see in the little, this is what you can watch next, Boro the Caterpillar, and I'm like, I want to watch this little short film. So I click on it, and it's like, oh, sorry, this is unavailable because it's only shown in the Studio Ghibli Museum. And I'm like, God dang it! Now I gotta go to Japan!
Oh, no!
Japan!
I gotta go to Japan, sorry.
But it is exclusively shown in his museum. That's it.
Well, I have a thing to add to my list. We're hoping to go to Japan this year. We're vaccinated, but maybe Japan won't mess up.
Maybe they won't notice. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna go later this year, so we're hoping. We're just saving more money for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm looking at I'm glossing through some of the stuff about Miyazaki, and one of the other things he again, grumpy old man, one of my favorite things, where in addition to the storytelling differences between his movies and anime movies, is how people talk. So to give you a little insight, been taking Japanese for about 4 years now, and boy, so to brief primer, Japanese theater is treated as though people are not familiar with each other and have no way to address each other other than in a formal, exaggerated fashion. That is how this is done in anime. So in anime films, you have a lot of people throwing, they're either really formal, bizarrely formal, like you would see in theater. So, for example, the easiest example, mother, Oka-san. That is my mother. If I am talking about my mother, I will say haha or Oka-san. If I'm talking about your mother, if I'm talking about your mother, it's Oka-san, but I will never refer to your mother as haha. It's not. I'm not your sister. Okay.
Mhm.
If I'm talking about my mom, I'm like, oh, it's mom, haha. But if I'm talking about my mother, my esteemed mother, the concept of a mother, it's Oka-san. And you don't in most modern anime, most animated Japanese anime, it's very dramatic. It's like, Oka-san talking about my mom, and if they're tough guys, they're all gonna yell with the weird endings on verbs that make them sound like tough guys, because there's not actually like guy speech, and everybody's yelling all the time. And this comes back to the softness of Miyazaki's films that I was talking about earlier, where people talk like people. You know, I'm not hopped up on Go Juice screaming at you about the fate of the world. I am, just an 8-year-old girl who is worried about my flowers wilting from my going away present from my class. I'm addressing my mother as haha. Maybe Oka-san if I'm like begging her for something like, mother, please. But like it's another like I said, it's another layer of that softness, of that earnestness. He doesn't treat the films like they're theater. He treats them as though they are things that happen or could happen.
Treats it like real life.
Yeah, treats it a lot like real life.
He's telling a story, but story.
He's telling a story about people. He's not telling a story to tell a story. I mean, there's nothing wrong with telling a story. I play a bunch of role-playing games to tell stories. But,
these are real life people that he's talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go watch My Neighbors the Yamadas, and that's just a family. I mean, like they deal with
family.
some
family.
And like they deal with some situations that maybe not every family will deal with, and maybe some of their solutions are a little unorthodox. But I mean, like, it's still very much just a story about a family. Like, it's not. There are no stakes. You know what I mean? It's just a family. I mean, like the ending theme song to My Neighbor Yamada's, because it's a series, not a movie, is Que Sera Sera. And it's just that's kind of like the entire attitude of the show. Whatever will be. It's
Yep.
And it does throw the whole Ghibli animation right out the window.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yep.
There's zero realism in that animation, but yeah, it's really good.
There's a charm and earnestness to that too. It looks like it's more like doodles in a notebook.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. Let's talk about his creatures. He does humans and people very well, but he also does animals and creatures fantastically. Like, they're definitely some of my best anime creatures is Studio Ghibli. And some are so simple but so not relatable, but they stick with you. Like the dust bunny. I used to draw them all the time in high school. Like, I would actually write people notes and sign my name with a little dust bunny right after. And I still do that. 20-some years later, I'll still, draw a little dust bunny if people knew me then. It's still something I do.
Sweet little dust bunnies. Yeah, or even the golly, the gallery of spirits in Spirited Away. Holy moly. Like I said, you don't get to pick the things that stick in your head, like the 3 little ducklings with the tails on their head.
No, you might get to pick the things that stick in your head, but sometimes Miyazaki does.
The Nightwalker.
The half so cute I have to have it, half nightmare fuel Kodamas from Princess Mononoke. Like,
yeah,
they're just cute enough and move like a baby enough to make you go out and buy the plushie like you have to have it. Yet they also, like, shake their heads and move enough like a bird and stare into your soul enough that you'll have a nightmare about them later.
Well, they are the spirits of children lost in the woods.
Yeah.
So,
But I will say
Makes you wanna have that plushie. Yep.
the Princess Mononoke Kodamas are not the same thing as just like folklore Kodamas.
Oh no, they're more like tree spirits, but
so fun story. The little Kodamas, they you can get them like little figurines, but they're glow in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought like a whole bunch of them for Christmas, and I hid a few of them in each of my daughter's presents. So every time she opened one up, there'd be these. She called them these little men. Cause I don't think she remembered what they were called. But but yeah, every time she opened up a present, there was a few of them in there. She's just like, "What's going on?"
See, now you can put them with your Christmas trees because they're tree spirits. Yeah,
they would make
I love that.
Great Christmas tree ornaments.
Oh, perfect. Oh, excellent.
So,
I got a huge Christmas tree last year, so I am
Rick also bought me a little baggie of those little Kodamas. And even before we moved into our new house, our house came with 3, not 1, not 2, 3 bird baths.
Oh.
Nope, I wish.
3 Kodama.
Bird baths.
No, we wouldn't have moved in if they'd come with its own Kodama. I'd have been, maybe we find a different house. I'm not trying to get cursed, okay?
We're already cursed, we don't need any more. So I had planned on turning one of these bird baths into a little garden type scene. And I'm going to put these little Kodamas in it. So I'm going to make it like a little shrine thing in there and put the little Kodamas there. And I think that will be absolutely adorable. I just have to get around to doing it. But
I also got her some dust bunnies, and I'm looking for a turnip head. Like I want to get a turnip head to put in there too.
So it'd be awesome.
What?
So you're talking about your bird baths, right? Make one of them like a Miyazaki ramen bowl.
Oh my god!
Brilliant!
I'm still gonna put a Kodama in it too. There's gonna be one little Kodama.
The Kodama's resting in it like it's a hot tub.
Obviously.
It's an hot
And then the turnip head, that's for the big scarecrow guy, right?
Yeah.
Just make a big scarecrow guy, put him out in your yard.
Yeah, just gotta turn it.
How do you do that? How hard can it be?
Famous last words.
How hard can it be?
So, honestly, thinking of the creature design, the Nightwalker and the Great Forest Spirit, huge influences on my creature design. Like massive influences. Like every time I'm like, I'm gonna draw a weird creature, and there's the Nightwalker. Okay. Well, I'm gonna draw another creature, and there's the Great Forest Spirit. Well, I did it again. Okay, well, I guess I'm doing that now.
My hand just does that now. It's weird.
It's automatic. It just does that now.
Put your hand to paper and just like you start drawing a line, and all of a sudden, poof.
I guess that's happening now. And it's the beauty in some of the creatures, even just the animal designs, like a red elk, like it reminds me a lot of brush paintings, which I think comes from the hand-drawn animation. But when not quite ukiyo-e, which is like the very simple brush paintings, but it's more like woodblock, where you end up having to express things in a few strokes rather than a full detail, so that they can translate well, if you're scaling up or down. And so you end up with these, again, elegance. Elegance is a word you can certainly use with a lot of Miyazaki films and a lot of their impacts. You could easily translate every single creature that they've designed in that studio into a brush painting and not lose any detail and not lose any essence of what that creature is, what that creature does, what that creature translates to in the film. You have Ponyo and her little chicken feet. Oh my goodness gracious. Like, cannot imagine anything cuter. Other than her just screaming ham at the top of her lungs. But Ponyo and her little chicken feet. The mother that was the size of a whale but had the texture of a jellyfish. And I think that's another thing that builds on the creature design is that they're very aware of textures in their 2D drawings. As we examined with the food, which I will constantly bring up now. Thank you so much. You get, like, when San buries her face in her wolf mother's fur, you can almost feel it from that texture that they convey.
Yeah.
When the leper is striking the iron, you can see that texture. When you're in Spirited Away, you can feel the heat from the baths. You can feel the awkwardness of standing next to the giant turnip spirit. The giant daikon.
Anytime water is involved. Just anytime water is involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's an old thing that used to be sort of the standard for either traditional artists or digital artists was how well can you render water? And Ghibli nailed it. That whole studio, they got it. They got 100%.
This water here.
You mean this water? Right this water that you want to drink straight from the hose? Yeah, please have some. But yeah, the elegance of the different Totoro designs, all the little Totoro spirits. You have the big fluffy boy, big fluffy chonker boy. Again, you just want to bury your face in his fur and just hang out. And then you have little white dude that you're not quite sure what he's made of, but he feels light as a feather.
It's marshmallow. It's definitely made of marshmallow.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's definitely dandelion.
Dandelion fluff, the marshmallowy center. Any part of the creature that you look at has a texture that is distinctly its own. Again, Totoro, fluffy body, big square teeth that kind of freak me out a little bit. He's got them human teeth. He's got the human chompers. And the sharp little claws that he has,
I was about to say, almost avian-like claws.
Yeah,
yeah.
And each texture is handled extremely well in such a way that they feel like distinct parts of the creature, but they use other elements like color schemes and animation to remind you that they're all part of the same creature.
Sometimes a little too well. I do not want to know what it feels like to sit inside of a cat bus. I'll pass on that.
The smell.
I also feel like I would see the spine.
Yeah.
I think the spine's on the bottom, and this is just a big fluffy layer that's just like a tumor that's been hollowed out.
I also don't want to step on the spine. I don't bone on my feet. No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't want to know what it feels like to sit inside of a cat bus. I will pass.
You actually trip over it, and you see it's
And his back does that scrunchy thing. You see on the naked Sphinx cats. I love Sphinx cats. So when there are videos of people just gently touching their back and their whole back just scrunches.
Or you accidentally step too hard and then it can't move its back legs and you did it, but you got to walk off like nothing happened and you don't know. And you just keep walking and someone's like, why can't this cat bus go? And you're like, I don't know. It's like that when I got here. And you just keep walking like nothing happened. I'm pulling from some deep trauma right now.
4 of its 8 legs don't work anymore.
Oh, no.
They're all on one side, so it limps. It tilts.
And as you walk off into the distance, you hear a lone gunshot.
Next stop, veterinary hospital.
I don't think this is Ghibli anymore. I don't think this is.
Oh, no, that's Ghibli. That is Ghibli.
Oh, that's some real Ghibli shit right there.
Are you crying yet? It's Ghibli.
It'll make you cry, either tears of joy or tears of sadness, but you gonna cry today.
Gonna cry.
We're gonna be sad today.
Woke up at so sadness.
All the sad happiness.
I'll say that the Ghibli film for me that doesn't feel Ghibli to me is The Cat Returns.
Hey, I'm in that.
Well, it's not a Miyazaki film, that's for sure.
Right. It's made by Ghibli, but it's not Miyazaki.
Yeah.
It's the same with Lupin the Third. There's the Count of Cagliostro something.
Cagliostro?
Yeah, that one.
You're right there.
It's the one word. I watched a lot of Lupin the Third, the animated, anime, and then Ghibli kind of did their own little film, and I was like, oh, it's Lupin, but that's not Lupin, but it's Lupin.
So apparently he co-directed or directed 23 episodes of Lupin the Third Part 1 with Takahata, who I believe did Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Talk about dissonant storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's funny because I think it's the animation style that most people peg as this is a Miyazaki film, and no, it's just the studio. It's just the Studio Ghibli. But like, how do you convey a sweet, elegant sadness and go, that's what makes a Miyazaki film? Like, it's elegant. There's sweetness. There's sadness. There's complexity. And there's food that just makes you inexplicably hungry.
It's his spirit. It's whatever he puts in his work. It's his spirit. It's his perfection.
I would love to find out that he has no clue how to cook.
Oh God, wouldn't that be hilarious?
I would love that.
Just
He's
he has
making
such
some
an
instant ramen.
Hey man, can you make me some ham? I don't know. how to
no.
do it. We can order out if you want.
I can draw you some ham. Same thing.
I'll order from the place that I use for all of my reference photos. And it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah.
I would be disappointed, and then that disappointedness would just fly away. Like, oh. Okay. I'm fucking down for this. Get it, Miyazaki.
Hungry. Now I'm just hopelessly hungry. I have to go to bed hungry.
Man, I bet that motherfucker would make crackers look good.
God,
He does.
They make rice balls look good.
I want to eat those eggshells. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, yeah.
They look crunchy.
Calcifer makes them look real tasty.
Yeah.
Even the big old slabs of bacon that you know are gonna stop your heart. Like,
Get out
oh,
of there, bacon.
oh God.
And I believed Calcifer when he said those eggshells were yummy. I believed him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why would he lie to us? He wouldn't lie to us.
I
Right.
just found an article.
About those
That's-
eggshells?
No,
But eggshells?
but there's a clip apparently of Miyazaki making poor man's salt-flavored ramen for his crew on a deadline. So he can cook. Kinda. Like, as far as I know, he's capable of creating sustenance.
That's close enough for me.
Yeah, like,
Well, watch. Now they got to show him pour one of those bowls, and then like everything looks normal, and then they show his bowl, and it's just beautiful. It's like
it's just beautiful and shimmering and amazing. Okay, that's what it is. That's the term. I knew there was a term for it. So the term is washoku, food harmony. So shoku is like food or food place, and wa is like harmony, sort of. It's a little wa's weird. But it's a focus on the food culture of Japan and reveling in kind of reveling in the simplicity and the essentialness of the ingredients. Like, there are no unnecessary ingredients. There's no
Waste.
overdevelopment. Yeah, there's no waste. There's no overdevelopment. It's not, it's not something like crazy fusion stuff. Crazy fusion stuff is eaten everywhere. But like for Japanese cooking, you have, 5 colors, 5 flavors, 5 ways. Like that's gomi goho. That's whole, yeah. But it emphasizes the traditional stuff, so that's why you see lots of rice, lots of ramen. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and it's a reinforcement of Japanese culture. And so, I mean, food makes a culture. If you were not aware, food makes a culture, and to have such beautiful food in such elegant films presented as this thing that is both essential and an art piece. Like, no, artworks of that ham, a work of art. It connects people back to that Japanese culture of respect for your food, of acknowledgement of the ingredients, of the care, of the preparation,
Of the necessity.
the absolute necessity. And it's all wrapped up beautifully in a few frames of shimmering golden fried eggs.
Well, yeah, it's like I was saying earlier with like the theme of Shintoism across most of, or if not all of, Miyazaki's films. that general respect for everything around you. You know what I mean? Like, we have to have respect for the forest, respect, like, you and I walk past a tree and it's a tree. In Shintoism, you walk past a tree, and that tree, especially if it's a very large tree, is the home of a spirit or a god, and it needs to be revered as such. Japan, as a percentage, is not quote unquote a religious country. Like, if you look at, like, people who consider themselves religious and like observing and like practice religion, it's a very low percentage. Yet the only thing Japan has more of than shrines is vending machines. It's their shrines everywhere, and they all observe Shinto traditions, even if they don't. Well, not say all. I mean, I shouldn't generalize, but it's a very high percentage of people who at least observe Shinto tradition, even if they don't consider themselves religious.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, I think we discussed this off mic earlier, but I'm gonna bring up the percentages thing again. So while folks may not consider themselves religious with the Shinto practices, it's still considered a religion, but the practices are so deeply ingrained in their society. They're so deeply ingrained in their traditions and the way they speak and the way they interact with the world, is that it's not considered a religion. It's like saying bless you. I don't actually want you to be blessed. I'm just sorry that you're sneezing. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't wait to go and visit. But yeah, Shintoism's wild. I love seeing it in different contexts, like with Marie Kondo's tidying up. All Shinto practices what she does. Greasing the house, respecting the items, and like there are a few other. There's an anime out there. I think it was like Mushishi was an anime that talks about like Buddhist principles. So there's a lot going on there. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with Miyazaki having extremely, even if he may or may not consider himself a Shintoist, he got some Shinto going on in all his films.
He may have been exposed to it once or twice in his life.
Just a wee bit.
Bitch.
Not and you also can't discount. I mean, like, we were so busy talking about everything that he's done, like, we're not even talking about the impact that he's had on culture at large, as far as how many, not even just Japanese artists or Japanese filmmakers, but how many artists and filmmakers in general take so much inspiration from Ghibli films and Miyazaki films, and how many people, like I said, Howl's Moving Castle opened number 12 behind Batman Begins at number 1 when it came out. Yet now they have entire events where theaters will show Miyazaki films or Ghibli films. They're like, this week we're showing this one, this week we're showing this one, this week we're showing this one, and those events will sell out.
The generations that were introduced to Miyazaki, like, those years ago, are now old enough to have money of their own. They're influencing. They are the ones going out and buying all these tickets. They are the ones that are having kids and introducing their kids to this. Miyazaki is going to be probably the first anime for a lot of people now, just as he was then. And not only is he going to be some of their first anime, he's also giving an air of legitimacy to anime, where most of us are exposed to the shonen stuff. Miyazaki, and a lot of people, we've even had a little bit. We danced around the subject a little bit in this conversation. There doesn't seem to be a lot of legitimacy towards that kind of anime to a large group of people.
Sure.
Where Miyazaki stepped up and was like, well, this is a real film, and he definitely carries himself in a very Scorsese kind of way when it comes to that. I'm pretty sure that he wouldn't like Marvel movies either. But
I think he hates them or something.
Yeah. But I mean, just like Scorsese, though, they do make good movies. They do make legit movies. It is a work of art. It's not a consumerist product. It is meant to be experienced. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be interpreted. It's meant to be understood. It's meant to raise questions for conversation.
Yeah.
It's not big explosions, big monsters.
And there's a delight in explosions and big monsters. I'm hoping to see the Kong versus Godzilla soon. But
didn't make sense, but it was great.
Yeah.
Another reason to get HBO Max with hashtag not a sponsor, but you can stream Kong Godzilla on HBO Max.
Gotcha. So I think that comes back to the longevity of his films. The simplicity, the elegance of stories being told in those films translates so well, not just across countries, but across time.
Yep. There's a reason why I use the word human nature a lot.
Absolutely. Because
it is human nature that he explores a lot. And the best part about human nature, as long as we're humans, we're going to have human nature. So, those movies are timeless.
Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. I absolutely agree, and I think that's what bumps them into, I guess not like the Criterion Collection, but it'd be something to put into like the AFI Silver or something similar, wherein, whereas like I love the Marvel films. I would love to get an entire box set of the Infinity War. Like, they're fun. I will rewatch them. They're incredibly well made, and they have some good recurring themes that you can explore again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have, again, the universal applicability of the stories that Miyazaki tells. Like, the earnestness, the simplicity, the elegance is universal.
Right.
And that's what's going to keep them around.
Where you said these Ghibli films are timeless, the Marvel films definitely have a shelf life.
Oh, well, perfect example. If you guys are watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, a lot of those themes that they're exploring in Falcon and Winter Soldier are, one, very centered on what is happening in America right now.
No.
And over the past year.
Once again, subtlety is buried in the backyard 6 feet deep.
It was so relevant that they had to cut stuff out.
I'm not surprised.
Because apparently they had like a whole virus storyline, and they were like, "We gotta cut that out.
We gotta cut this, guys. We can't do this."
But we definitely needed to leave in the overt abuse of power by a person in authority.
Well, that's a thing that is also a recurring theme, which may add a little bit of longevity to it.
Yeah,
it's going to happen again.
No, I mean, God, I hope not. I hope this stuff stops at some point. Crying.
I hope so too, but well, so I argue that the theme of Captain America is that we must always strive to be the best for ourselves and for other people, and a lot of the storylines that drives are when we forget that. Right. But that's Captain America, not Studio Ghibli.
Correct.
But yeah, I mean, like in general,
that quote. Hold on. The quote I was talking about earlier, that is actually one of my favorites that now is my favorite. So Miyazaki, about the whole surpassing ourselves, he quoted, I wrote it down, it said, self-satisfied people have to push hard and surpass ourselves. And I was like, damn Miyazaki, that hit me a little bit. And that's one of his self-reflections. That's one of his sayings that he strives to be. And the man's like 80 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he still pushes to surpass himself, which I can see because of his perfectionism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I like him.
Also part of his downfall. He is a perfectionist, and it's absolutely one of his downfalls. Because as I was watching that documentary, he almost defeated himself with that. He was so much of a perfectionist that he wanted everything to be perfect and correct that he was on the verge of saying, screw this, just scrap it all. It's not going to be good enough. Nothing is going to be good enough. Everything I've done up till now is just trash. Get rid of it. And I'm like, whoa, do you realize the impact you've had on society and just me in general? Just the impact he's had on me, let alone millions. And he's so, screw it all, it's awful. Like, no, it's not. And so that, it's a strength, but it's also his weakness when it comes to that. So I see where he's at with that. Man, that man, not expected.
I knew he was a grumpy old man. I knew I liked him.
Oh, I love him. He's amazing.
All right, Baron. You want to throw a bow on this thing?
Nah.
Throw a bowl of ramen on this thing.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
so hungry.
Well, I will just say this. I hope that this podcast inspires any of our viewers. If you haven't seen any of his movies, if you've only seen a couple of his movies, go out, see more, see one, and I hope that you walk away with as much magic and love and optimism and passion that we all have from watching these. I know that I've had a lot of influences in my life to be a better person and to approach things with a sense of wonder and a sense of kindness and generosity. And these movies are truly one of those influences. So I really, really hope that you can go and watch and learn and appreciate.
Grave of the Fireflies should not be that first one.
Don't do that.
Oh, no, don't do that to yourself.
I will
Oh, Lord have
say,
mercy.
so the YouTuber I was talking about who came up with the T-shirt, the Fight Less, Talk More, Apologize Sometimes, he lives in Texas and was greatly affected by the blizzards and the storms that came in.
Ah.
And basically his entire house fell apart.
Oh, how terrible.
So that shirt is available for purchase. It's basically going to get him a place to live. So links to buy that shirt will be in the description down below.
Awesome.
Help the guy out. Not to mention, it's just a great T-shirt and a great saying. So yeah, get yourself a cool T-shirt to support your love of Miyazaki and help a guy out. Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the Casters Guild. Kat, if people like what you had to say and they want to find you elsewhere on the internet, where can they find you?
Oh, gosh. I am all over the internet. I am extremely fluent in meme. So they can watch me on my Twitch channel. I broadcast on Tuesday nights at about 8-ish Eastern time. That's Scaredy Cat, SKARDEY_KAT. I'm double checking that spelling. Somebody took the regular spelling, so I had to come up with SKAREDY_KAT. That's me on Tuesdays. My husband and I do a double feature. So, but Scaredy Cat, I specifically play horror games and talk about what makes them scary. I'm currently playing The Medium, which is an excellent game. Beautiful, spooky, and wonderful. I'm also on Twitter at Caffeine Witch. That's also my Instagram, where you can get amazing selfies and random facts about nature.
Links to all those things will be in the description down below. Tiff, is there anything you want to plug? I don't think so, but
I have a Facebook. I know these really cool dudes that do a podcast, so there's that.
We'll put their link in the description.
Yeah, we'll totally put that link there. Go ahead, you got that. But yeah, I don't do much on the internet.
email us at castersguild@gmail.com with anything you have to say about this or any other podcast we do or anything you'd like us to cover in the future. Find us on all the socials. We're on Twitch and YouTube now, so come check us out, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.